Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this weekend edition of a little bit of Aramaic. And we are continuing in Matthew chapter 5 and going to the fourth verse of the Sermon on the Mount of the Beatitudes. And again, I'm always amazed at every time I look at this, and I have been studying this for quite a period of time, weeks, if not months. And when I went to prepare this study, something new again just jumped out that I'm just thrilled to be able to share with you. And that's the joy of being able to research in um, the original languages and compare with all the tools and with the opportunities we have today that didn't exist years ago. And so as we jump in here, we see that this is a very short verse in English. It says, "Blessed are the mourners, blessed the mourners, for they shall be comforted." Um, we went through the first word, which is in Hebrew, ashrei. In Aramaic, it's tuvahun, which means good. Um, and again, the struggle here is, what does this word blessed mean? And I've spent much time on it, but every time it comes up because it's at the beginning of every verse. So the question we ask is, okay, are they blessed and then they become mourners? Is this a aspect of existing in this realm of ashrei or tuvahun, of blessing, that there would be mourning? Or is it, that they're mourning and this is a promise that they will be blessed because they're going through this mourning? And then what is mourning? Um, is it someone died? Is it, what level of mourning is it? We can mourn over so many things. From one extreme, you can mourn because you have, a hangnail or a sliver in your finger, or you can mourn because you've lost your whole family in a tragedy and you're hurting and laying in a hospital near death. The two extremes of mourning, and then there are so many things in between that cause us to mourn. So let's see if we can gain anything, and of course we will, from the biblical languages here. So first we'll look at this word that's translated as mourning, and this is in the Syriac Peshitta. We're looking here at the square script. Underneath we have the Espantola script above it, basically the same letters as in the Hebrew. So what's interesting here is we have a lamed preposition, which means two or four. And then at the end, we have the aleph, which is the definite article. So two or four of the morning, of morning. And so that's kind of interesting how this is phrased, because that's lost in the English. So you have the preposition of two or four, and then the definite article pointing to the morning, to this episode or this experience. So let's just open up the flyout here and see what it says. Here we have four different English translations, pretty much all the same. The mourn, you're blessed, blessed, mourn, comforted, blessed, mourn, comforted. Nothing really new there. And then we have the word for mourning. We see that it is emphatic. So that's an interesting state of emphasis, meaning that there is some emotion behind it. And that's again what we're looking for is what kind of emotion is going on here. To compare, let's take a look at the Hebrew that I've been working on from the Matthew um, version of in Hebrew from the Harley text, which is from the library in London. And so we see that it uses this pretty much the same word, the aleph, bet, lamed, and then it has the masculine plural ending of the um, hirik, yod, mem, sofit. And what's interesting here is in the Hebrew, this word is avelim, which may remind you of the word Abel, which was the word of the name of Abel in the Bible. And they're all related. And this is what's kind of fascinating here. We also see that, at least in the Hebrew here, the Ashrei ends with a Sere yod, which puts it in construct, which would basically say of. It's something of. So here they are, blessed of the ones lacking wholeness, or ashrei of the ones who are mourning. And let's just dig in a little bit deeper here as we see in Hebrew, lamentation of mourning, expressing grief or calamity. It's used to describe both the noun and the verb, the act of mourning, and a state of being in it. We know a lot about the cultural or we can learn a lot about the cultural practices in the Middle East on how mourning is somewhat quite a bit different from what we are used to in our Midwest modern society. And so, tying into the name of Abel, um, you know that there was mourning after he lost his life. Now, what's also interesting, and I mentioned it before, is names in the Bible don't necessarily represent always the name that the mother or father gave them, but it will many times represent the conditions and the circumstances under which they lived, mainly pointing towards what we're supposed to learn from them. What is the lesson that is involved with this name of this person? And that their names will tie into that. So we see Abel, um, in that name, that he lost his life. There was mourning. It also speaks of brevity. His life was very short. And so it's associated with the word like for vapor of existing for a while and being gone. And fits in the word of vanity, something that's not substantial, something that is fleeting. And so from the Samson Raphael Hirsch Etymological Dictionary, this word has the idea of lacking in wholeness. And of course, this fits completely with the idea of loss and the resulting meaning from that. So want to take a look at the Targumim dictionary of um, Marcus Jastrow, and look into the entry, and it talks about mourning, to observe ceremonies, to mourn, much, what you would think and what we expect. But I was surprised when I went to Payne Smith's um, compendious, it's a word I've never used before, but it's called the Compendious Syriac Dictionary. And of course, you're going to notice that the characters it's using, the alphabet it's using is very different. This is another type of script. The letters are the same. It just takes a little more understanding to try to figure this out. But this is the Aleph, this is the Beit, this is the Lamed here at the end, Lamed and Aleph, excuse me, at the end. And it talks about mourning, but then it goes a little deeper. And this is based upon the cultural use from the Syriac culture, which is, where they live. And it's bewailing, it's a mourner, but it also then goes into what was associated with being a monk or a nun. And then what do monks or nuns do? They leave the world behind. They go and cloister themselves in a way to separate themselves. And again, that's very popular in some faith traditions, and others it's very foreign and not practiced. But getting the idea that this mourning is to make a lamentation and leaving the world to bewail their sins. So it takes on a slightly different nuance for what this mourning could be, that perhaps Jesus is teaching not so much about a mourning from a loss of life, but when a person begins to understand their spiritual condition, when they begin to understand the depravity of mankind and the sinful nature that we've all been thrust into, born into, that we grow up with, that we exhibit, from our youth, and helping us to become aware of that. It is, in biblical terms, a path to repentance. It is a place of where you feel conviction, where you feel God's Spirit touch you, and you feel sorrowful for what you've done, but not just in a way that you feel sorrowful, but in a way that motivates you to make changes, to change direction is what the true meaning of repentance is. To from going one direction, you do a 180 and you begin to head in a different direction. And so it's very probable that this is something Jesus could have been making reference to in this condition, that when a person begins to have a repentant heart or a heart of mourning, or you are bewailing your sinful nature, you're making lamentation for the things you've done that have hurt others and that have separated us from God. It begins a process inside of us. And to me, this is, we begin to realize our lack of wholeness, going back to Samson Raphael's Hirsch's uh, understanding of this, is that we're lacking. We're missing something. There's an emptiness within us. There's something that's not complete, not whole. And I think there's two sides of this. It could definitely mean someone who has, had a serious loss of something in their life in a material way, and that they can find comfort in God's presence. But I think on a dual pathway, we can look at it saying that when we realize that we are not whole without the infilling of God's presence, without His love in our life, without His touch, without following in His pathways and reading His Word and living the life that He's called us and desires for us to live, there's an emptiness. There's a lacking in our life. There is a mourning, even though we may not know what it is at many times. If we allow God to guide us, He will direct us in this way, that this uh, mourning, this emptiness, can be fulfilled. And so we'll come back next week and take a look at what this word comfort means. That if a person is feeling this emptiness, feeling this lack of wholeness in their life for whatever reason, what's God going to do about it? What's the end result? So again, I thank you for being a part of this little study. I hope you enjoy seeing the depth of what's possible. And of course, I'm just touching on a small, very small part. There are other lexicons, other study guides. We could unpack the word, every letter of the word, and look at the meanings and find how that supports uh, or complements the understanding. And again, it just leaves me in awe, and so grateful that we have this opportunity to study. So God bless you all and have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.